graduates going into the private sector, you have to see the India growth story is also part of your story. It's no longer just your company's bottom line you have to think of. You have to think about how you can partner with the public sector and the public services of the government in producing meaningful and effective results for the transformation of our country. And the politicians have to get it right too. There are a lot of reforms still required. We can talk about that. The next generation reforms in areas of knowledge and innovation, financial sector reforms, educational reforms, reforms against corruption, a lot of things happening there. And I'll be very happy to talk about that if you want me to, but I told the organizers I'm going to try and leave enough time for questions, and I've taken longer than I intended to. I just really want to stress that there are very many positive changes happening in our country, that the cliched image of India as this unchanging land of timelessness has got to be abandoned. We are not at all that anymore. We are very much a land where there have been dramatic transformations. In economics, I've talked about already. In politics, you know it. Can you imagine a Dalit woman ruling in UP for the third successive time? And this is in the heartland of Aryavrat, where for a Dalit, let alone a Dalit woman, to exercise any authority would have been inconceivable for 3,000 years. Where did that come from? That came from our democracy, from the use of the ballot box to give power to those with the vote. That's the kind of transformation that's happening in our country. And it's sustained by this extraordinary Indian idea. You know, when I speak to Americans, I tell them, oh, you call yourself a melting pot. You know, we're not a melting pot. Because you can easily tell a Bengali from a Punjabi and so on. We are still a collection. But I said, what we are really is we're a thali. We're a collection of different bowls on one plate. Each bowl has a different dish. Each dish tastes different, so it doesn't necessarily flow into the next bowl. But they belong together on the same plate, and they combine on your palate to give you a satisfying repast. That is the Indian idea. And that Indian idea needs democracy to sustain it. Because democracy says it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, you see. You can endure differences of caste, creed, color, culture, cuisine, costume, custom, conviction, and still rally around a consensus. And that consensus is on the basic democratic principle that in a big, diverse democracy like ours, you don't really need to agree all the time, so long as you will agree on the ground rules of how you will disagree. The great strength of India, in my mind, is that we have maintained consensus on how to manage without consensus. So, we will move forward. I have a lot of faith in our civil society, I have a lot of faith in our ability to face these challenges and to come to positive outcomes. I know we can do the right thing, but we must also do the thing right, and that's something that we have to get right when we're dealing with the Lokpal bill in Parliament this coming week. But coming back to this challenge of leadership in globally turbulent times, I would stress that to celebrate something about India today, it isn't world leadership. It isn't even economic growth, which, as I said, is slipping now. It's not even the question of what we're trying to do domestically to transform our country, the hardware, the software, all of that. What it is to me that's worth stressing today is that all this is taking place. This great adventure of connecting 600 million Indian villagers to the global village. This adventure is taking place in a democracy, in an open society, in a rich and diverse and plural civilization, in one that's open to the contention of ideas and interests within it, that's unafraid of the prowess or the products of the outside world, that's wedded to the democratic pluralism that's India's greatest strength, and that is determined to fulfill and liberate the creative energies of its people. That is the transformed India of the early 21st century, and its place in today's turbulent world is well worth celebrating. Thank you for listening to me, and Jai Hind. Shall I stand here for the Q&A?